Hi, my name is Jada Love, and I will be looking at the idea of critical race studies that we've talked about during this class. Specifically, let's dive into what exactly is critical race studies. So, taking from information from lecture 7 of this class, the idea of critical race studies refers to the studying of racial representation with video games. And by that, we can look at the ways that race can reveal important information, especially politically, within the game world. Before we dive into looking at race within the game world, it is important to define aspects such as what race is and information that goes behind race within our society. Race can be defined as how people of different skin colors are grouped, such as one group is African American, one is white, Mexican, so on and so forth. Race is also known as a social construct, and as such, they can be reconstructed and deconstructed in order to benefit society. And what I mean by race as a social construct, I mean that race is not a natural or pre-existing category within society. There are people of different colors from different places, but these categories have changed very much over time, and these ideas of who was white and who was black changed across, time. And so we can't exactly say that this person's white, this person's black based on straight, therefore cut things. It's this social construct based off of what society has classified in different racial groups. Race also has a very large impact on both the material, emotional, and social lives of all people. This is specifically taken from lecture 7, and I think this is a very big important point to go over, because if we look at race within video games, we need to understand that how race can have important impacts and implications for people in our society. And if we look at race within the context of video games, we can see that if this has impact on this many people, then looking at within video games, the video games can also have impact on the material, emotional, and social lives of all people as well. And one of the points I also want to make sure to go over too is that within games, I have definitely seen that there are unintentional externalizations and perpetuations of a lack of racial diversity and stereotypes as well. And that is going to lead us into the first example. So many examples that we talked about in this class, such as hair knot, NBA 2K 2016, another example that we didn't actually discuss, but that counts as an idea of as this critical race studies as The Walking Dead. I specifically want to focus on hair knot. This is a prime example of racial representation in the game world, where this critical race studies approach is very useful. This idea of the game hair knot essentially focuses on this action that people have the tendency to touch Black women's hair. The game does a unique and impressive job at educating the public on the everyday struggles that Black women face. And in fact, I took a quote from the creator, Momo Pixel, who claimed that when creating the game, she viewed hair knot as a response to the perverse action of touching a Black woman's hair without permission, the microaggression of assumed authority and ownership of Black bodies. As a Black woman myself, I can very much identify with what Momo Pixel is explaining. People out there assuming that they have this kind of ownership of Black bodies, so that they can just go ahead and touch hair because it seems cool or fake or interesting or different from their own, when in reality it's a pretty big phenomenon and something that isn't actually appreciated by Black women in general, but that society would have never otherwise known about if this game hadn't brought it to people's attention. We're going to click this link here, and I want to take us to the game just to look at a overview of it. So here is the beginning of the game. I'm pretty sure it's loading right now. We'll give it a second. All right. So open it up right here. And we'll press start. And then obviously it starts off right here saying that Ava loves to travel, but is hesitant because people often invade her personal space by touching her hair without permission. So help Ava catch her flight and protect her hair by stopping the reaching hands. right here we can see that the main point of this game is to essentially slap away hands from people touching her hair in order for Ava to reach her destination. So we're going to click OK. One aspect right here is you get to initially pick the skin tone of the character. I particularly like this aspect because if we take a little bit from the reading about emotion, about Parappa the Rappa, emotion is a very important aspect within video game studies. And one way to emphasize an emotional response with your character and to get that interaction between knowing how they are feeling is being able to have agency over choosing what your character looks like, so you feel represented through them. So I think that by allowing us to choose our character right here in the beginning, it does a very good job at creating that emotional connection with the character, and therefore getting more of an understanding of what African American women actually go through in real life. So we're going to go ahead and click one right here. And then also we're going to go and click the hair I want to choose. We'll do that. And then we'll just go ahead and go do Havana for right now. All right, so the game tells you to click or use the arrow keys to swat the hands away. If you miss too many or swat too much, your nom meter will go down, and you want your nom meter to hit the most it can before the time runs out. All right, so we're going to start playing right now.
So fluffy.
And something else that I really do like in this game is how it does have aspects. I don't know if you heard it said so fluffy, and it will say things like, I didn't know that was real, and is it attached to your head? And I think this also adds to the aspects of what Black women have to go through with the ignorant comments and things like that have to do with their hair. So we're going to keep playing this.
Nice.
All right, and then it gets harder and harder for each challenge. So this first one was relatively easy, and then we'll go to a different location. We'll be in the car right now.
Is it attached to your head?
And see there was a comment where it says, is it attached to your head? That, again, ignorant comments that I was talking about that Black women have to face. I just want to make sure to get to the end of this game because there is an important message that Pixel does include at the end. So we're going to go ahead and finish playing through the game so we can reach the end. And as you can see, every time I hit the hands, the nom meter will go up. And then the timer is in the right-hand corner. And we want to make sure to get that nom meter up before the time runs out. All right, so we passed that level. We're here again. And then, as you can see, it gets harder and harder with more hands. You're going to have to swat as the locations are progressing and the game is progressing. See there.
It's so fluffy.
All right, we're progressing. And then the nom meter is about to hit the top, so then we'll be going on to the next location. All right. So now it looks like we're on the plane, and I'm pretty sure this level is going to get harder and harder with the more hands. See right there, already missing one.
Nice.
All right, and what I do like, which might be a subtle thing to notice, is that some of the characters in the background, I do like that they have all different colors. And then so right here we see that I won. It says, welcome to Havana, you win. This is something that I really like valued and like took to heart, and I liked that they included it at the end of the game. And it says that the game is over, but this experience isn't. This is an issue that Black women face daily. So note to those who do it, stop that And then obviously I don't want to cuss on there, but it's saying essentially stop doing that kind of stuff. So if we go ahead and exit the game and go back to this. All right. And then, so then overall, what to take away from this is that games such as Hair Gnaw can serve as a prime example of applying this critical race approach, looking at the ways that race can be represented within the game, but also ways that it can tell us more valuable lessons to the players who play them that would have otherwise gone unnoticed, such as that most people probably wouldn't understand that it's not okay to touch people's hair, especially Black women's hair. But yet it's still such a cultural phenomenon. Within this game, it's able to educate its audience into knowing what is okay and what isn't when it comes to Black women's hair and the issues that Black women face in society. And then I wanted to make sure to double check and look at another example that we've discussed in the reading in our class, which is NBA 216, Chapter 15 by Triandra and Russrum. This is another primary example of how we can examine race within games and how it may affect the players who play the games. This chapter examines how empathy is one of the most important roles in gameplay and how it is important to make the connection with the character and not only just for the character. So in other words, within this game, there was a protagonist and there was his best friend, and what Russrum had found was that people tended to have a lack of empathy with the protagonist's best friend because he was from the wrong side of the tracks and he caused a lot of chaos for the protagonist's life. And what Triandra and Russrum was evaluating was saying that NBA 2K16 has this lack of being able to change what the other characters in the game look like, such as whether you're Asian player or white player, your character's family will still end up being Black. And so this lack of being able to have your race represented through the game creates a lack of empathy with the game. And so, in other words, this chapter looks at how race and player agency in designing what race their avatar is can affect the empathy the player has for the game. So what is happening within both of these games? In both of these examples, I've discussed that they have to do with looking at race and how that can reveal larger insights of the world to its players. And I mean, this is basically what the premise of critical race studies is about, is looking at this race within video games and seeing how it can affect people who play the game and reveal larger insights. In other words, there are people out there who probably wouldn't have understood that it's not okay to touch a Black woman's hair. There are people out there who probably understood why they don't have such an empathetic connection to the protagonist or the protagonist's best friend is because they can't show who they are through the game. And so that comes down to this overall idea of why is critical race studies important. It's important because racial representation and race within the video game world can serve as an analytical category, educating the public on issues that would have otherwise gone unnoticed, such as the everyday complications and adversities that African American people face. And so race can affect players and evoke certain emotions, such as empathy, by allowing the player to feel represented through their agency to choose the race, or by also just feeling that they're being represented at all in general. I mean, there is such a lack of racial representation in video games so often today, predominantly they're white males. And so addressing this lack of African American representation in games today promotes this idea of inclusion and allows so many people to feel that they're equal in a society that has so long made people feel unequal. And essentially that is what I have for my project, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned a lot about this idea of critical race studies and how it can reveal larger insights of the world. And bye.